Ellen Lindner, welcome to the Bookshelf Conversations.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, you are participating in SABR Day for the Elysian Fields chapter of the organization. Tell us a little bit about what you will be doing there on February 7th.
Oh my gosh. That's actually a really good question. This is the beginning of my school semester, and so I've been very checked out of any future events. But it's just going to be myself and a bunch of other creative folks talking about our lives in comics and art related to baseball. I'm really grateful to Donna Mascarella for organizing this. And yeah, it'll just be a really fantastic day.
When my daughter asked me, I told her I'd be doing this interview with the three people who are on the panel, and she asked me what they did, and I didn't know how to describe your particular profession. So, if you could. I mean, illustrator, graphic designer, comic book artist. I didn't know what the proper description would be.
Oh my gosh, if you ever figure it out, please tell me. Yeah, it's funny you should say that again because I'm starting teaching again this week. I had to introduce myself to students yesterday, and that was wild. It's like, well, I'm a writer, I'm an editor, graphic novelist, journalist. Yeah, it's a multi-hyphenate world, Ron. It's a multi-hyphenate world. And yeah, I think especially for creative people, nowadays you kind of don't get to specialize. A lot of us spend some time learning how to do one thing and then you move on. And that's actually perfect for folks who are interested in comics. With comics, you're always learning. And so related to Saber Day, my biggest area of concentration is doing comics about the history of gender in baseball, specifically American baseball. And I will be talking specifically about my work relating to Effa Manley, whose team, the Newark Eagles, was based at the site where the Muth Museum, where Saber Day is, currently resides.
When you say you talk to your students, at what level are you teaching?
Oh my gosh. Well, I teach at Queens College in
Hmm.
the City University of New York system, and I also teach at City Tech, which is a smaller CUNY in downtown Brooklyn. So I teach college students about research, specifically how to build a project. And I also teach junior graphic designers just how to do basic stuff like set up a file for a book.
When excuse me, you mentioned research. Effa Manley has been written about quite a bit, but some of your other comic book work is about earlier days of women in baseball. Do you find it difficult to find research material for that?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. Um, there are some really phenomenal scholars who've done a huge amount of work related to gender in baseball. Dr. Leslie Heafy comes to mind, who wrote the Encyclopedia of Women's Baseball. Um, and so, in a very real sense, I am benefiting from centuries of investment by other people, in preserving this history. But yeah, it is way more difficult to research, the history of who folks who are not men, playing, owning, managing, doing anything in baseball than it is to research the sort of dominant historical narrative in baseball, which yeah is people who are cis male, creating teams, creating leagues. That is a lot easier to research. Fun fact, although it's not fun, the first image of Black women in baseball doesn't appear until 1910
Wow.
in the press. And so that really speaks to the level of lack of investment, the level of lack of resourcing. If you can't even find a picture of somebody until that late date, yeah, it is difficult, but it's also really rewarding. And in my ongoing series, Lost Diamonds, um, I'm currently researching the period that's kind of in the 1970s and 1980s. And thank you, newspapers.com,
Hmm.
newspapers.com, um, thanks to resources like that, which are very modern, I don't have to do what researchers in the 60s and 70s would have had to do, which is drive around to archives and look at microfilm and microfiche in person.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's actually pretty remarkable what you can find, especially because the history I'm currently researching, which is the history of young girls trying to play little league after the Maria Pepe decision. I think folks think that, for example, after Title IX, things got easier in, college sports for women. After Maria Pepe, it was easier for girls to play baseball. These larger happenings, these larger legal decisions or, you know, um, changes in our culture, they still had to be refought in a very granular way by every, woman or girl who still wanted to play baseball. Title IX really didn't do that much for women in baseball, very sadly. And, you know, the people who are currently playing baseball in the Women's Professional Baseball League, the people who tried out in August, the people who are who were chosen at the draft in November, those people had to fight as well. Many years after Maria Pepe was able to sue Little League with the help of the National Organization of Women and successfully, change the law. So it's a very heavy history. It's a history that's often kind of sad. It's sad to read about people having to fight constantly to do something that other people take for granted. But for me, it's really interesting. It's been super educational for me as a baseball fan. When I was a kid watching the Mets, I had no idea that I could play baseball. You know, in my town, it was like girls play softball, boys play baseball, and that was the end of the story. And who knows if I even would have liked baseball? I never got to find out. So, yeah, and that was in the 80s. So, uncovering this history is, like I said, it's kind of heavy because a lot of it's a little sad, but it's better to know the truth than to kind of persist in, these fantasies about baseball being as egalitarian as we wish it could be.
So it's almost like a treasure hunt when you do find out these little nuggets of information.
Oh, absolutely. If you enjoy research, then that's absolutely the feeling. That's the feeling I kind of try and instill in my students. Some of my students are crafting their own kind of senior thesis. And so it's really nice to see other people make those discoveries as well. Um, but yeah, if you find, a particular book or a particular, like for example, when I was researching at Manley, I was able to find a copy of the book she wrote about baseball, which was a book that I have not been able to find anywhere else, but was in the Schomburg collection of the New York Public Library, which is a collection that was established to elevate Black history and the Black experience within the public library system. And so basically, yeah, when you find these little nuggets of information, it's really phenomenal. There's a lot of frustration, but when you do kind of get everything together, it's very satisfying.
What's the frustration part? Is it when you're looking for something specific and you can't find information about it? Explain that a little more, please, the frustration.
Oh, wow, that's such a good question. So for example, at the moment I'm researching Title IX in particular because I'm writing an article for Bust magazine about the WPBL.
Mhm.
And
The WPBL, for those who don't know, is a new organization, the Women's Professional Baseball League, that's starting up this year.
absolutely. So if you try and research how Title IX has not advanced women in baseball, that's automatically you're researching a negative, right?
Right.
Nobody is going to write down on a piece of paper, today I kept women from playing on my college baseball team, exclamation point, a great day, exclamation point. Nobody writes that. And so sometimes when you're researching these why didn't it happen kind of scenarios, that can be really frustrating. But on the other hand, when you are able to make some headway there, that's phenomenal. And no year of NCAA baseball has ever passed with more than 9 women playing baseball. Um, this is compared to 1,800 full teams for NCAA women's basketball. So if you compare 9 people with 1,800 teams full of a full roster of people, I think that shows the extent of the issue.
Hmm.
Um, there's just, before the WPBL, there just hasn't been that much opportunity. The IOC subbed softball as a equivalent for baseball in the Olympics for women, because of course the Olympics, tries for gender equity in each sport. Yeah, it's wild. It is a little wild, but again, it's better to know the truth, in my opinion, than to kind of persist in some sort of fantasy.
Tell us a little bit more about your comic book series, Lost Diamonds.
Oh, well, when I was researching the Cranklets Chronicle, which is the preceding series where I wrote about Joan Whitney Payson and Effa Manley, I started to kind of wonder, I don't actually know that much about women playing baseball. I've never, like, at that point, I'd never seen a woman play baseball,
Hmm.
um, which is wild considering I am quite old. You know,
Relatively speaking.
yeah, I'm in my I'm in my middle age, and I've never I've never seen a woman play baseball. That's terrifying. I have watched so much baseball in my life, and I know so many people who play sports. I play softball recreationally, um, here in New York City in the summer. I know a lot of people who play a lot of sports, and I've never seen this thing happen until I went to the WPBL tryouts, which was phenomenal, but that's a whole different story. So that was the genesis of Lost Diamonds. Why have I never seen this thing that sounds so obvious? Um, and so, yeah, I just started sort of like raking over the coals, reading the scholarship of people like David Block, for example, who wrote Baseball Before We Knew It, a really cohesive argument for baseball being based on a whole gene pool of bat and ball games that would have been played by people of all genders back in Europe. I really recommend David's Block's book. David Block's books on pre-baseball for anyone who's curious about the sort of foment of baseball. They fill in a lot of blanks, um, and they make a pretty, coherent argument for women and people who are not men just being part of the genesis of baseball generally. And so I started reading his books, and of course, Dr. Leslie Heafy. Um, you know, there's just a lot of really great scholarship already done on this topic. I'm looking behind me to all my little my bookshelf, with John Thorne. There's just like a lot out there, but it was a question of synthesizing it and figuring out what I want to focus on in telling the story of baseball. So, for example, I was really surprised to read, for example, an article in New York Times about the Dolly Vardens playing in the scrubland outside of Philadelphia in the 1870s. And also, I was shocked to read the way they were depicted in the article. So this is a team of Black women playing outside of Philadelphia. It kind of boggles the mind why the New York Times would be writing about this anyway, because this is not in New York City. And often the white press made a point of ignoring
Mhm.
Black people and Black sports to preserve this fantasy of white supremacy. Um, and reading the article, was a little dismaying. And I'm saying a little dismaying ironically because it was extremely horrifying. It's basically transmogrifying the experience of women playing baseball into a minstrel performance.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, this is why the Times wrote about this, because they're going to make it funny. And they're going to make it funny in a really racist way.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, you really get, when you research baseball, you're researching America, and you can't get past the fact that people in America have had some very disappointing views on the world over our history. And so for me, just as a baseball fan, as an American, doing Lost Diamonds, researching this lost history, finding out about stories which I had no inkling of, You know, for example, in Lost Diamonds 2, I write about a tour, a women's baseball tour of Japan that took place with children. And the tour, the guy who organized the tour, who was a former MLB player and coach, ran out of money and decided to come home alone.
Oh,
Um, Leaving children in a foreign country to fend for themselves, which I think in a nutshell says a lot about how the current dialogue around women's sports, for example, when NCAA basketball players who are women show how bad their locker rooms are compared to men, it's like, wow, this has actually been part of our culture the whole time women have been playing sports. The whole time we've neglected this population group who just want to have fun and play and, if possible, make some cash. So this tour of Japan ended up with one of the children dying
oh my.
because they were swept overboard on the ship home. These are children who had no adult supervision because their coach left them in a foreign country where they did not speak the language in a century. This is in the early 20th century. This is in the 1920s when they couldn't just, make a long distance call home.
Hmm.
It is completely absurd. And so basically, yeah, you find out about the sort of historic neglect of women's sports. Um, in one of my issues, I have a pie chart that shows how much funding women's sports got on the college level before Title IX. And basically, it's so tiny as part of a pie chart, it just looks like a thin line. And actually, I think that is too generous. I think it actually makes it look better than it was. So yeah, so it's been a little dismaying, but I think that especially with the WPBL starting in August, it's really helpful to know the historic background of women playing baseball and how much of a difficult process it has been for people who are talented, able, interested to even get rec level baseball in their lives. And so it really helps me appreciate what the WPBL athletes have had to deal with. And it also makes me appreciate, like the level of skill they have. They've really worked on like against all odds, against so many people telling them to quit, play softball, or just don't play anything. They've, persevered and they've created something really phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm just looking up. I'm sure you're familiar with the Gene Fruits documentary
Oh
about women in
yeah,
baseball.
yeah. See her,
Uh,
be here. Yeah, it's really
Thank you.
phenomenal.
Uh-huh. And uh, when you went to the tryouts, in what capacity did you go? Did you go as to try out?
So many people. Actually, I had one person tell me, I don't know if you should try because these girls are really good. This
Hmm.
is another cartoonist, and to his credit, he had gone to see the Women's Baseball World Cup in Thunder Bay, and he was like, "Look, you may think you can just rock up and play with these girls, but they are so good." I was like, "I am a I am a middle-aged person who is under 5'5". I am not trying out." And I didn't play. I mean, if I'm honest, I struggle with adult rec softball. So I'm definitely not going to try and throw down with a bunch of 20-year-olds who have been training their whole lives to dominate. No, I did not go to try out. I went as a member of the press. I went in my capacity as a comics journalist, and it was a wild trip. I had been playing my softball league in Brooklyn. I play in a softball league called Prospect Park Women's Softball.
Hmm.
And unfun fact, when it was founded in 1981, it was the only league for women in the entire city. And it's an instructional league, and so you can be like me. You can learn to play softball as an adult. But we had been playing a tournament all that weekend. And so a friend of mine, Neela K. Wickramasinghe, who is the chief conservator at Greenwood Cemetery,
Hmm.
amazing job. We got on Amtrak at 5:30 a.m. on Monday morning to see the last day of tryouts, the culminating day of tryouts, when all the people who were kind of like had made it through the weekend were going to play. And it was pretty crazy. First of all, it was at Nationals Park, so you're in downtown DC. beautiful, beautiful ballpark. Um, and we were very sleep deprived. But it was really cool, just like the celebrity spotting. Maybelle Blair was there, Kelsey Whitmore was there, Ayami Sato was there, you know, and we were in this little press box, just soaking it all in. And it was a gorgeous day. This is, late August in DC, not too humid though. It was just really wonderful. And we got to meet people who'd come to cheer on their friends, who'd come to cheer on their family, people who had come to try out. I talked to one person, Chris C.P. Peterson, who'd come all the way from Colorado. Um, and they just wanted to see if they had it.
Mhm.
They didn't want an opportunity like this to go by and not have it having had test themselves, like, oh, could I, you don't want to have regrets. You want to
Sure,
just go for stuff. Um, and so Chris had basically decided, I don't care how much money it's going to cost. I don't care, if I make it or not. I just want to see if I can do it.
sure.
And yeah, it was a really cool experience. There was a really phenomenal press conference with Keith Stein, who is Justine Siegel's co-founder. Keith Stein is the owner of the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is a baseball team in an independent league in Toronto that predates the hockey Maple Leafs. And this past summer, I got to go see them play. Ayami Sato was pitching for them, and so he connected with Justine. He's been an entrepreneur. From what I can gather, he's been an entrepreneur in a lot of different fields. And so he's supporting Justine, whose life's work is promoting, girls who want to play baseball. She's, of course, the founder of Baseball for All, which is, to my mind, the leading gender equity organization in baseball. It creates all these wonderful tournaments where girls who may play Little League, but maybe they play on a team where they're the only girl. They can go and play on a team that's all girls against other teams that are all girls from all over the country, all over the world. And so get that experience of like not being an outsider, not being reliant on other people, accepting you, you're already accepted. And so Justine had some really powerful things to say about the starting of the league. And it was really cool to see with my own eyes, finally see women play baseball in a major league stadium.
Hmm.
I don't really have any, Kelsey Whitmore, for example, was playing on the Staten Island Ferry Hawks. If there's a place on a male team for a woman, that's awesome. But it was so cool to see a stadium full of women, see teams full of women, see all those opportunities, not just one roster spot, but like a whole roster worth of opportunity. And the draft was really cool. I was at Wilka's, which is the sports bar, the women's sports bar in Lower Manhattan. And it was really cool because Stephanie Everett, who is one of the potential draftees, one of the people in the draft pool, was there. Um, and so we all got to celebrate when she got picked. Yeah, it's the WPBL. It's really phenomenal. I'm really excited for it. I'm a little sad because they're not playing in New York this year. They're playing in Springfield, Illinois. And Springfield, Illinois is for me a 24-hour commute. That is um at least the way I travel, Ron. Some may travel faster, but I really love ye old Amtrak.
Hmm.
Especially Chicago. Get right into the middle of the city. Um, and so basically, that's an obstacle, but I'm trying to think about some way I could maybe, go hang out there for a little while, see some games. And from what I understand, everything will be streaming anyway, so we'll all get to watch, these amazing athletes.
Now, all four teams are going to be playing in the same venue, correct?
So my impression is that in the initial year, they're all four teams are playing in this neutral venue, which is Robin Roberts Stadium in Springfield, Illinois. My impression is it's the former home of the Springfield Sallies. but this might be a fantasy. Um, yeah, it's a relatively small stadium. I believe it's over 100 years old. It's quite old. And my impression is that it's been getting some rehabilitation and some improvements in anticipation of the WPBL tenancy. Um, I've also been told that it's the WPBL is going to be the only sports organization using it during its season. And so it'll be completely dedicated to the league during, I believe, August and September. And so yeah, I hope folks will consider checking out a game. A lot of these athletes are already pretty well known, partly through their association with the world of banana ball,
Uh,
which is something I only know about as a social media phenomenon.
mhm.
But my nephews are obsessed with it. Um, for those who don't know, for the two people who don't know, the Savannah Bananas, they play this particular brand of baseball called banana ball. They've become quote unquote TikTok's favorite baseball team. I think they have something like 4 million followers on TikTok and the Yankees have 1 million. And so through, because it's a non-league for fun baseball initiative, they've been a little bit more open to female players than MLB has, shall we say.
Mhm.
And so Ashton Lansdale, who is a first round draft pick for WPBL, she's become low key famous through Banana Ball and also through the MLB Home Run Derby X um, world of traveling hitting competitions. But like, yeah, people who know Banana Ball will know Kelsey Whitmore and Ashton Lansdale. Um, it's we're living in strange baseball times, Ron. Everything is wild. But yeah, so I'm really excited for all these athletes. And yeah, maybe you'll see me in Springfield. But I might also be at home watching it on YouTube with everybody else.
Mm. Well, Ellen Lindner, it's been a pleasure chatting with you today. Looking forward to that Sabre Day on February 7th. All the information will be in the entry on the blog when I post. Thank you. Good luck. Have a good day at school.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Ron. Have a great day.